Welcome to Clinical Perspectives, the show where we talk with the people shaping medtech to explore what it really takes to build, launch, and grow in the medical device industry. If you care about the future of medical devices, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Stephanie Stover, and today I'm joined by Zack Hinson, Director of Business Development at UX Platforms. Lovely to meet you, Zack. How are you today?
You as well. Thanks so much, Stephanie. Doing well. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about a little bit about yourself and your role at UX Platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Zack Hinson. Like you mentioned, I'm the Sales Director, Business Development Director at UX Platforms. We are a MRI video system company. We make MRI video systems, of course, that help with patient comfort in the MRI space, really trying to alleviate some of the common challenges in MRI, I would say, like claustrophobia, general sedation, anesthesia, things like that, some avoidable things in the MRI environment. So that's a little bit about what we do. So right now we're trying to break into hospital systems across the country and try to, of course, like I mentioned, alleviate some of those common challenges that hospitals are facing in MRI environments.
So how often do hospitals come across those types of scenarios? What percentage would you say?
Well, I'd say so. There's some white paper studies out there that indicate 30 to 40% of all MRI patients experience
Really?
some form of anxiety or apprehension leading up to or during their MRI scans. So, when we talk to our customer base, what we're finding is that, and I kind of relate this to everybody kind of having a cell phone in their hands always. There's always some sort of stimulus for folks. So asking them to sit still in a MRI bore that's loud, noisy, anxiety inducing already for up to an hour at a time is already a challenge. So, it's about giving them some form of distraction while they're in there so that those technologists can complete their scans successfully. So what we're seeing from our customer base is that the, general anesthesia, sedating patients unnecessarily is higher than ever. So that's just where we come into play, giving them an option or a tool in their tool belt to use before they have to escalate that care to an anesthesiologist or calling in a prescription for a sedative.
Okay. And so you mentioned that that hospitals are your core customer. Are there any other types of customers or end users that you sell into?
Yeah, imaging centers, anyone with an MRI really. Yeah, so I'd say we're in full growth mode. We've spent the last 3 or 4 years really perfecting our product. We've really worked hand in hand with technologists, directors of imaging services, radiology directors to try to really hone in on what is going to work best. Our base system, the one that we started off with 4 or 5 years ago when we began, has, it's come a long way from now to then. So we feel like we've gotten to a point where the system is really helping a lot of patients, and especially technologists as well are enjoying using it.
Awesome. So walk me through the technician's process with the patient. What does it look like? What are they interacting with? What are they doing when they're having the MRI?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a few different options with our system. So really what we're trying to do is stray away from some of the common challenges that some of our competitors have with their systems. A lot of other video systems in MRI environments, they have to be cleaned in between each and every patient. There's a component of those systems that has to be placed on a patient's face. So, that kind of unlocks its own version of claustrophobia in and of itself. So where we're trying to make it completely patient contact free. So to get to the answer here in your question is, I'd say the technologist's process begins with, asking what the patient would like. If they are claustrophobic, if they're not, and really trying to hone in on what is going to work best for them. So we have a few different options to the system. Like I was saying, there is an option where it's a full bore video. So you can play, I kind of liken these videos to screensavers, like kind of on an old desktop computer, but for the inside of the MRI bore. So, you can play like a nice calming, relaxing beach scene across the entire surface of the bore. Or we have old Pac-Man, something like that, they can just kind of sit there and watch Pac-Man dance around the bore. So you can kind of leave that all day, every day. That never needs to be turned off. But if you do have that patient who is highly claustrophobic, experiencing some higher than usual anxiety, or a pediatric patient, for instance, that you're really not trying to go down the general anesthesia route with, you can throw on what we call our Cinemode attachment. So this piece clips into the MRI bed rails and travels with the patient. And there's a mirror that flips down on top of basically where their eyes are. And it allows them to watch, movies. With our Cinemode Plus package, It unlocks the ability
Wow.
to stream directly inside of the MRI bore, so you can, plug in a Fire Stick or an iPad or a DVD player, for instance, if you have one, and let the patients view exactly what they'd like to watch. So that's the one that we're really seeing a lot of success with in alleviating some of those claustrophobia cases. The use for anesthesia, things like that, is simply let a patient watch a movie while they're undergoing their scan. And we're seeing a lot of success with that.
Very cool. So, how many hospitals or imaging centers are you guys in right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned, we are in pretty solid period of growth right now. We're in about 150 locations nationwide, about
Oh,
another
good.
100 or so in Japan, and then we're working on expanding to Europe as well. So we're really excited.
Wow.
We recently got in with quite a few Kaiser locations, Johns Hopkins, All Children's Hospital, some Advent Health's, Providence. So some notable health systems are starting to catch on, which we're really excited about.
That is super exciting. Can I ask, what are you guys doing in like revenue or monthly sales?
Monthly sales. So we're doing about 3 or 4 systems a month right now, I would say, which is, fairly
Okay.
good for like I mentioned, I don't know if we got to this, but we are a small business.
Yeah.
There's about 5 of us here running the shop. So we're doing about four or so systems a month right now, which is, we're fairly happy with at the moment.
Very cool. And how are you getting those clients?
So right now it's all outbound sales. So we are seeing some folks where, if for like a Kaiser, for instance, where it's starting to catch on with the health system, I think word is starting to sort of spread a little bit. So we are seeing, some folks reach out to us directly, which is exciting. But as of right now, for the last couple of years, we've really been on the hard outbound train. Just about everybody in here is, in some form or fashion, putting their sales hat on and reaching out to some prospective customers. So that's generally our route right now.
Okay. And so, what would you say then is the biggest bottleneck between where you guys are now and where you want to be?
I'd say the biggest bottleneck that we're seeing is just that a lot of folks don't know technology like ours exists. So there's
Mm.
been a few staples in our industry. It is a niche industry that have been around for quite some time, but coming out with a new piece of technology in an MRI environment, there's a lot of folks that aren't on LinkedIn or aren't searching for our products in certain catalogs and where you can find us. So it's just all about spreading the word and trying to let people catch on to the new and improved technology that's out there like ours.
Okay, very cool. Does it cost less for them overall to use your product than it does for them to, say, use anesthesia?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's actually a white paper study that indicates every time sedation or anesthesia is used for a basic MRI, costs the hospital up to $1,500 per scan. That's a direct expense to the hospital themselves as well. Those are non-reimbursable dollars. That's additional setup, monitoring, staffing, of course, anesthesia itself that isn't even reimbursable for the hospital. That's where we come into play, as it can be looked up as, quite a bit of an initial upfront cost to implement a system like ours, but you'll
Mm.
recoup those dollars fairly quickly and not having to sedate those patients.
Right, right. And what is the initial cost or the setup cost?
For our system,
Yeah, yeah.
so we range from around 25,000 to 35,000 per scanner.
Okay. And then how quickly can the hospital make that up?
We've seen in some circumstances with some of our really top performing customers who put our system to great use, we've seen them recoup that cost in as little as 2 months.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, really exciting stuff. We were excited to track down that data from. We've got one customer site in particular that we don't know if it's the patient demographic or where he's located, but he was seeing quite a few claustrophobia cases. Just about it's a small outpatient facility, and he was just having folks come in who were just generally just really afraid of the MRI itself. So he implemented our system and saw quite a bit of success in upping his throughput, his ability to scan patients, and of course, in turn, bill their insurance.
Right, right. That's fantastic. So in addition to, so there's monetary benefits in addition to just solving that issue and having better patient care.
Exactly.
What does success look like for you guys in the next, say, 6 to 12 months?
6 to 12 months, really what we're trying to hone in on is our OEM partnerships. So, the big players in MRI are
Yeah.
GE, Siemens, Canon, Fujifilm. So really we want to get in with those OEMs to, hopefully make our product a part of their platforms. So we do work closely hand in hand with Canon and beginning a relationship with Fujifilm as well. But, we'd love to see our systems on almost every scanner that goes in.
Fantastic. Who would you say are your competitors?
So we've got a couple of different competitors. There's a company that makes Caring Suites. It's a really great company. They come in and kind of retrofit an entire MRI room with ambient lighting,
Mhm.
TVs that go in the ceiling, things like that. But we have noticed that is a bit of a cost strenuous solution, and that's a lot of downtime for those scanners as well, for them to come in and retrofit an entire room, whereas we come in and install in roughly 3 hours. We're in and out of the
Wow.
hospital's hair as quickly as possible so they can get back up
Yeah.
and scanning patients. There's also some goggles systems out there, for instance. Those are the ones that I was telling you, go on patients' faces. They work really well as well for children, but sometimes they don't fit in certain head coils. As I mentioned, the technologist has to clean those in between each and every patient. There are some vectors for disease there as well. So, I keep touching on just trying to alleviate some of those common challenges in MRI. And that's one of those is, zero patient contact with our solution, and just really trying to help technologists as well with their workflow on top of
Mhm.
lending a hand to those patients who are undergoing scans.
So there's really nothing r- really like your product, correct?
Not a ton that we've seen, no. So, like I mentioned, it's a
Good.
fairly niche industry. There's not a lot of players in our percent game. Um, so yeah, that's really what we're trying to do is create something new and novel that not a lot of people are doing.
Okay, very cool. So you talked a lot about growth and how you're on a major growth spurt right now.
Yeah.
Why does this matter now rather than say 12 months from now? Why are you wanting to grow so quickly?
I think we're finally at the capacity. So we just moved into a larger warehouse where our production capacity has, I'd say, probably doubled in the last year and a half. So our capability to push this product out is finally there. We've honed in on a couple of technological changes that make the system more robust, more stable, and a lot more user friendly as well. So I feel like we're just finally in that spot where, we can accept any orders that come in, no matter how large they are, how large the health system is. So that's where we're at.
Nice, nice. What's a recent win that you're proud of?
I'd say finally closing the deal with Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, of course, being such a renowned educational hospital network. That was just a really big deal for us for them to choose us out of the few competitors that we have out there as well. And especially getting in with a children's hospital like that, where our system can really help a patient population that we think our system is very much targeted to. So that was a huge win for us, helping Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital get through some of those scans without having to sedate or give those children anesthesia.
Oh, that's huge. That's so amazing. That must feel so rewarding.
Yeah, exactly. And then collecting some feedback from them as well that, the system started working fairly quickly. It's all about how the technologist implements the system as well. It's only as good as the technologists are. So really having good techs who are implementing the system how it's supposed to be implemented, it's been great hearing some of the feedback that they've had for it.
Awesome. What is some of the feedback that they've had?
Yeah, so I'd say just kind of across the board, a lot of technologists out there have had experience with the goggles, for instance, or the MR conditional TVs that roll around the room. What we hear from technologists is that our system is just overall easier to operate, whereas a lot of the systems out there currently utilize DVD players specifically. That kind of comes with its own set of challenges, having to rifle through a library of DVDs, put the DVD in. Some patients who come in for MRI scans fairly frequently know exactly where they want to start the DVD at. Like I like to watch, Superman from minute 30 to 45 or so have you, if they're undergoing a 15-minute scan. So our system is all tablet based. So we get a lot of good feedback that, it's just easy to operate. It's quick, it's seamless. It doesn't add too much to that technologist's already busy schedule and workflow. That's our goal, is to, like I mentioned, help patients and help technologists.
Awesome. But what else are you guys doing for like marketing wise?
So marketing, like I mentioned, we're a small shop over here. So, we post on LinkedIn very frequently. There's quite a few, radiology directors, imaging services folks that are on LinkedIn and fairly active. So we try to keep our audience tuned into what we're doing, new developments with the product. As far as we're also updating our website, I'm trying to make it more kind of e-commerce friendly, where, folks can come on in and with a couple of clicks kind of find out what exactly our price point is, and, if they can Yeah, of course, it takes generally like a demonstration, and our sales cycle has proven to be fairly long. But what we're trying to do is
Hospitals
shorten that
normally
down.
are.
Exactly. Everything in healthcare is going to take quite a bit of time, um, but marketing, we got LinkedIn. We're trying to expand our social media presence. Advertisements and the usual suspects as far as imaging magazines and things like that. And then we're also very active with trade shows. We go to just about all the
Hmm.
imaging expos as we possibly can.
How do you find the trade shows? Do you find them to be useful? Do you get a lot of clients from them?
We do. So the trade shows, we probably just started going to those about a year and a half to 2 years ago. And I can say personally that I've noticed it's very much a relationship driven game in this space. It's just having that FaceTime with those prospective customers has been invaluable. Getting to, shake their hands and check in where they're at and what they're doing that might be new or where we can kind of come into play has been really great. So we always have a booth, and then we've gone to some of these reverse expos where it's kind of like in-person speed dating, but with providers. So we go and stand in line at all of their desks and get to 5 minutes or so to pitch our product. So it's just been great for getting to know folks in the industry. I started in this industry about 3 years ago, so completely new, didn't know a single soul, and it feels now like when we go to those trade shows and things that it's like, hey, it's the MRI video system guys over there. So it's been fun to get to know the folks in the industry.
Yeah, so you get to see your friends every so often.
Exactly.
Nice, very nice. I have a couple more questions here. If you had a magic wand that you could wave to solve any one problem in the business, what would that be?
A magic wand, I would say, if we could spontaneously combust just a ton of inbound leads, that'd be amazing. Just some folks that already have some general interest or know about our product. That is generally our biggest challenge right now, I would say, is just the overall knowledge of the product. So that comes into play with our marketing efforts right now, and hopefully we can kind of use that magic wand here in the next year or so when we dial in the marketing strategy and start touching some new people that haven't seen our systems quite yet.
Very cool. Any last thoughts you'd like to leave listeners with?
I'd just say, if there is an MRI technologist or imaging director out there that might be checking this out, we'd love to hear from you, and hopefully our system might be a fit for your patient demographic and population.
Sounds great. Where can people follow you or get in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are UX Platforms Inc. on LinkedIn. That's Uniform X-Ray Platforms. So here. And then you can also reach me at Zack at uxplatforms.com. We're also uxplatforms.com on the web.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can find Zack at uxplatforms.com and on LinkedIn as well. Thank you very much. Catch you on the next episode.
Thanks, Stephanie.